Okay everyone, so welcome again to another video, and I just do apologize. I'm having a bit of a difficult time talking because of my dry mouth, and I think that's because of the dry weather here in our country. So we did learn about .html file and .php file, the difference between them, and how the script will just be working if we turn this to index.php rather than index.html. Another thing that I just want to tackle for this lesson is the idea of having the pair tags here. We have an opening tag and a closing tag for the PHP language. So we know that anything in between this line 48 and line 52 will be PHP syntax. Now, what if, for example, in this case, we do have PHP combined with HTML markup. However, there are some conventions that PHP developers will be telling you that if we do have, let's say I will be creating here an includes folder. Or just to make it simple, I'm just going to call this pure PHP. Okay, so now in this pure PHP folder, I want to have a pure php.php file. So again, this is just any customized name that I thought about, but just for the topic that I'm discussing right now, I just want to have this PHP tag. And rather than closing this like this way, if you are using pure PHP in your document and you will only be having PHP inside of it, we should not be closing the tag anymore at the end. And it really doesn't make a big difference in your code, but there is one thing that you should keep in mind, that if we have a pure PHP document and you have a closing tag in the end like this one, okay, and you leave a white space after the closing tag, it can have a tendency to, or you might have the tendency to run into an error. And that's the reason why if you will only be running PHP code and you won't be having any markup language like HTML and other languages inside of it, we usually just leave out the closing tag. So that means if I have this pure PHP and I'm just going to say, so I will be leaving, I'm just going to echo out, this is a pure PHP page. And let me close this. Now you would see it's still working. And can we go and link to that pure PHP file? So let's just go and have we do have a drop down. If we go back to our site here, we have some home link and we do have a link here. So let's just go, let's say lesson. And all right, I'm just going to say I'm going to remove this. And the item drop down, I'm just going to say lessons. And in here, I'm just going to say this is going to be lesson. I'm going to say that this is going to be lesson 6, pure PHP. And I'm going to have that link to that, let's say pure PHP and pure php.php. And let's just cross our finger if I correctly utilize this. Let's just see. So you would see I am currently in the directory pure PHP and pure php.php, and it is still working. So you would see this is a pure PHP page, and there's no problem with that having been there. And if I try to go and just go back to, you would see that's the directory, and we can see here we have index of 2024 PHP course. This is our root folder. Okay, just try to keep in mind that we put our index.php file. If I go to the parent directory, this is where our index.php file is located, right? So in here, we are currently in the pure PHP directory and we have that pure php.php. So when I paste this URL path from where we have the pure PHP folder, and again, let me just go back here. We have a pure PHP folder here that we created, or a directory. And again, let me just reveal that in the Explorer. Let me just pull up that just to really make a point here. We have a pure PHP folder here in our graphical user interface. And if I go inside, there's that pure PHP.file. And that's currently this pure PHP.php file. And just don't get confused with the location from where you have your pure PHP file. And if I go click on here, you will see this is a pure PHP page, and that's a pure PHP.php file that we do have here again. and we're accessing that pure PHP page. And if I go to my code editor, let me just say, let's see, we have a PHP file here. Let's go and go back to our index file. Let's refresh. We have lesson06 pure PHP. Okay, so we're encountering an error here, and I think that's because of we don't want to go. Let's have in the current folder, we want to have a relative path to the pure PHP folder that contains a pure PHP.php file. So let's try to see if this will now work. Let's refresh. And we do have that this is a pure PHP.page, and we are able to target the 2024 PHP course, pure PHP.php. So I think that's working correctly now. Okay, so I think that's it for this lesson, and thank you. And I hope that's now clear that even if we do have our pure PHP here, and we don't include the closing tag, that's perfectly okay. But if we are in a document, index.php, we are in a document with a combination of markup language like HTML and other languages, we should have that in the code, or else we will run into an error. So if I go back here, refresh, you would see now we are encountering this error. And I think that's because let me just restart my server. And we do see that this is a verbose explanation on line 50. So that means if we go back to our code base, we now have this line 50 here that is giving us a hint that there's an issue with where we're having that issue, and we need to have this added, or else we'll be having this parse error, syntax error, unexpected token here. If I refresh this, now we now have our site working properly. Okay, so that's it for this lesson. Thank you, and see you on our next lesson.